Physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. And this is Tristan, who is a Corgi. And this is another episode of Conversations with a Corgi. Starting a little late today because I had a situation. When I was getting a shower earlier, I found a tick on my upper leg. It was not attached, but it was desperately trying to attach as I was trying to remove it, and it freaked me out. So then, of course, we had to do an entire body check. Wonder where the tick came from. I did walk across the backyard in like knee waders yesterday. And I also saw a horse up in the woods, but I was on a stone driveway. I don't know where they're coming from. Certainly, poor little Tristan here has had numerous ticks on him already. The cedar is working, but I am pretty close to resorting to chemicals just because I can't live with ticks. I really am upset by them. And they are really, really bad this year, like 100 times worse than they usually are. It's not just a sort of a bad tick season. It's like usually my yard is tick-free, and I certainly can stay within my boundaries of my fence and not have a tick problem at all. But even laying in my hammock, I had a tick crawling on my neck. I mean, I literally have had 2 ticks on my body in my adult life that were just crawling around, and to now have 2 in the course of 6 days on my neck and my upper leg makes me really concerned about where they're coming from. And they are definitely going to their usual places, which is the warm, moist, furry parts of a human's body. I'm ready to go in for a serious waxing just to avoid having a wonderful habitat. Probably a little bit too personal, but I don't know what to do with them. I mean, I've sprayed myself with cedar when I go out, and I'm still getting them, and I don't know how. You know, in the South, they say they live in leaf litter because they like to hide in the space that's warm and moist in the leaf litter without being out in the sun. We are expected to have 2 sunny days at 80 degrees, and that may make a few of them go aground, as it were. But boy, it is just an unbelievable tick season here. I am afraid to go off my deck. And we did take a bit of a walk yesterday up the hill, but I had to keep Tristan on a really short leash and keep him from going in anyone's yards or in the many naturey, rough wildlife areas around the house. And of course, I have 4 deer living just outside my fence in my backyard, which are lovely hosts for ticks. And I love the deer, and I feel sorry for them having so many ticks on them, but I hope that their closeness is not creating more of a tick problem. Ticks really do feed on mice. Mice are the real problem, not the deer. But in fact, I have a new owl in my yard, a juvenile owl, and boy, they eat hundreds of mice, so I should be okay with the tick situation if that owl is doing her work. And as the wildflower meadow outside the door gets a little taller, the mice will move out there, and that'll be a lot easier for the owl to grab them and enjoy them as lunch or dinner. So, sorry we're starting late. We're going to continue our talk about T-Touch wraps for your dog today, or your horse, or your kitty. And there are many, many kinds of wraps, and as I said, you can find them in the dog book like this. It's for pets, all wrapped up, which you can get at ttouch.com. And you can also order the human and the horse book if you're interested in using wraps for other types of animals as well. So I'm just going to show you a few of them because there are so many. And in fact, often if a dog has a particular thing going on, we may, make up a new wrap just to address their particular issue. So it's not like a hard and fast rule about how to do the wraps, but I'm just going to give you a few ideas of things that we use commonly and that are really good for many dogs that may have minor health issues. So yesterday we talked about the quarter wrap, which British Corgi is modeling. It just goes around the chest and around the middle. It's our easiest wrap to put on a moving dog. It helps calm a lively, bouncing dog, and it's very simple to do if you only have a quick second to get the wrap on your dog. And almost anyone can do this one without fail repeatedly. The same goes for this one, really. This is the half wrap. It covers more than half the dog, but it is a half wrap. Let's show you this side, which is a better view. So that just goes around the front and the middle as we had with the quarter wrap, but then we crisscross underneath and come up with another loop on the back, and that makes it a half wrap. Usually it's a little more forward on the dog than this one, but being stuffed, it would be, I'm just going to move it up a little because we are going to add on this morning. There, it's usually much closer to the front of the dog like this. So we are going to make first this morning something called the rear wrap, and that is this wrap with an extra piece. So I'll just use what's going to show up on you, the green wrap. And with the half wrap plus, which is the rear wrap, you need 2 wraps, one that is going to be your half wrap and then a second one to do this back end configuration with. This is a quick way to get your dog ready for the full body wrap, which I'll show you next. And it's a really good way to engage the dog's hind legs in a different way than even the half wrap. We have seen tremendous gait changes in the half wrap on a dog, and it doesn't cover the hind end, although as I showed you yesterday, you can move this top piece back as needed to engage the hind end more, but you don't need to be touching the hind end to make a difference in the quality of your dog's gait. Part of it is that I think it really helps mobilize the spinal segments because of where it's placed on the dog, and that of course is going to increase movement in the hindquarters as well. So what you do with this, it helps dogs that are tense stiffen their hips, stiffen their hind legs. Where this crosses over the shoulders, you're just going to tuck this in, your extra one. You see that? And then we're just going to go around the hind end of the dog and tuck this in on the other side. I know, Tristan, the ticks are so bad. I hope you don't have any on you right now. I have been so vigilant brushing him and spraying him. And my dog client that came yesterday had been running in the woods. I was like, oh my God, we're not going out in the woods for 2 years till there's snow again. So you can see I tuck this under the front on the 2 sides. See, the green wrap is tucked. And then I just went around his rump and then back up to the front. Now, to do this really well, and why not? This dog's not moving. And to help it stay on, because these do slide down, it's best to go underneath all of the other wrap that you already have on, because that will help secure it in place. So I'll just put this on again, going under the wrap that goes around his rear and his middle, and coming up under the neck piece. And then you can just tie that or pin it or Velcro it, depending on what you have. So now you can see this is nice and secure going under here, around his haunches, underneath everything on this side. There's a knot there. And back up to the top. It's a little messy looking because these wraps are pretty long for Jack, but as you can see on this side, it's neat and tidy. And your dog can walk in it, and it helps them have a sense of their hindquarters. This wrap may have some issues staying on certain dogs, and I can give you some suggestions about that, but often we use this as a preparation for what we call the full wrap. And you don't want this to get too low back here, too close to the hocks, because when they walk it'll start to droop. So I usually start with it pretty high up and keep it fairly snug so that when the dog is moving it won't slide down too much. So let's do that with Tristan. Bisky, what color wraps do you want to wear today? Can you stand up, honey? You're falling. Ugh, did I feel a tick when I touched you? We're all so paranoid now, aren't we? Okay. Bissy, what color do you want? Pink? Pink and blue. Okay. Kids liking the raspberry this week. So again, you start with the half wrap going around his chest. You keep the second piece longer than the hips because it's going to have to go around him a couple more times. Bring it up, cross it on their back, cross it underneath, bring it back around, and this wrap has great Velcro thanks to my friend who dyed it and Velcroed it for me. So Tristan, can you show them? So he has the half wrap on. It goes around his chest, around his shoulders, and then around his hind end. And then I have to adjust it a little bit because we don't want to get his business too wrapped up, as it were. So then we take the second wrap and you tuck it under all of your other wraps. Come on, Velcro stick. So it's coming out where the first cross is. Loop it around the hindquarters. Tuck it up through the other wrap on the other side. And because he has no tail and he has very plump little buns, I'm going to put this pretty snug so that it would stay if he were to start walking. And then I'll tie him like a little Christmas present. So here it is on the live dog. You can see this is tucked up under here. You could do it more neatly with pins. The blue wrap is going under the pink wrap, which was our half wrap. It goes around his hindquarters, and then it's tucked up on the other side exactly like this. There's fuzz sticking up. And then where the cross is on the shoulders, easy boy. You know, it's hard to stand on a table. Put your foot down. There you go. I tied a bow to hold this on so that if he's moving, this is going to just give him a sense of awareness of his hindquarters. Hence, it's called the rear wrap. So see how that is? We'll take that part off now. The Velcro really does make it nicer to get your wraps on and off quickly. It doesn't always hold. If I were going to go on the confidence course, I might actually use pins to hold the wrap on, especially if I had a dog that was really nervous and moving around a lot, because the wrap coming off of him might really make him more nervous. So I would definitely use something really secure if I were working with a dog in the confidence course wearing a wrap. You've got tufts of hair sticking up. One of the things that happens with this is that sometimes it droops on the hind end. Tristan, what are you walking on? And so you can also make a loop around each hind leg with that wrap. And certainly with him, the wrap was long enough. If I were coming underneath all of those, I could just loop around a hind leg or under the hind leg coming back around. But you're more likely to go to what we call a full wrap rather than trying to loop things with the rear wrap. But lots of people do. If your dog becomes what we call frozen or fearful while he's wearing this wrap, it's easy to take it off and just loosen it or hold the wrap gently against his hindquarters so he can get the sense of something next to him without having to actually feel the little bit of pressure from the wrap on his hindquarters. So you can take it off and then try some ground exercises, do some T-touches, and gradually help him adjust to the feeling of that on his hind legs. What are you doing over there? And then depending on your dog's comfort level with that and how well it stays on him, you may have to use some different options that we have. So we'll go from there to, and there are so many other kinds of wraps that you can use, to the basic full wrap. So again, for this, depending on the size of your dog, you need two 3 or 4 inch wraps. These wraps I'm using today are the 2-inch wraps because my dogs are all pretty small. And this is going to take the wrap over the entire body of the dog. And it's really good to help integrate the dog's entire body. And it gives your dog a sense of connection from front to back. So it's really, really beneficial. It's good for dogs with arthritis, dogs with patella problems. It's good for all kinds of neurologic problems. And it's really good because it incorporates the whole body. It's good for a dog that's reactive. So to apply this, you're going to attach the bandages together. Can you stand up, Biss? We got to take this one off. And I'm going to tie them in a knot because it's more secure. So I just tie a square knot, or you could pin them, or you could Velcro them. I don't have the opposite ends of Velcro here, so I don't have a secure way to Velcro them. Okay, up this. Come on. Put the wrap with the knot in the middle of the dog's chest. Cross the ends over the dog's shoulders. So you're coming up this time first. And then you go inside the hind legs. I don't know, Tristan's head's so big you can't see. So let's put you this way, Tris. Put that foot down. So we fell out of our wrap. So as you can see, it's crossed on his shoulders. And then it goes around the inside of his hind legs. And then up on either side of the tail. Then you just put this underneath here to secure it. So each little hind leg is in there. He's got a cross on the top of his back. Try to keep everything nice and neat. And then you just tie a little bow. Again, we have a little Corgi present here on the top. Or you could fold it and pin it. So this is what we call a full wrap. So you can see it comes from the chest of the dog. Tristan is patient, especially if you saw what he was standing on, Linda. So he came around the front here and then crossed on his back. Went around the underside of the hind legs and then back out on the outside and then up and tied a bow on his buns. These stay on really well with Corgis, if you have a Corgi, because Corgis don't have tails. And a lot of the shorter tailed dogs, this stays on really well, like if you have a cocker with a dock tail or something. You can use the same color. You can use colors that match your dog. This is great for reactive dogs, and it's really good for tension in the back and the pelvis. It really helps them improve their gait, and I would leave this on for like 20 minutes to help a dog with DM or back problems or recovering from some neurologic condition, and maybe not like in the active beginning stages of Lyme disease, but when they've gotten a little more comfortable in their bodies again, this is a great thing to help them reintegrate their front and back end into one piece that works well. And if your bandage slips down the legs, you can cross between the hind legs like you would with a horse blanket, as well as crossing under the legs. And I'll show you that on Jack. Okay, have a seat, Biss. He's like, are you kidding me? Jack is patient too. He's been wearing a lot of harnesses and things this week, and he still has the same calm expression he always has. Tristan, do you like sharing the spotlight with Jack? I keep telling him one day I might get him a Jack Russell buddy. I don't know. I'm such a Corgi person. I don't know if I could get another type of dog, but I love Jack Russells. So we tied this in the front just like we did with Tristan. We're bringing it over the back and crossing it. And we're coming under the hind legs. And then up the sides. And under the wrap that's already there. And this is what really holds it on well, this last little bit coming through that wrap. And then you can tie a little bow on the top. Jack, you don't look so much littler than Tristan, but you are. So you can see it goes under the hind legs and around the front. And what I was saying is, if you have a dog with no tail or a very small tail and the wrap is sliding a lot, when you come under the hind legs, you can cross them. Anybody who's had a horse knows this trick. You can take them around the opposite leg. So instead of keeping the green on the green side and the blue on the blue side, I just cross them So you can see that. And then bring them up. And they absolutely will not fall down now because they are so secure when you do that. And with horses that roll in the pasture, sometimes their blankets slide around. So many horse people know the trick of crossing the ties for the back legs under the horse to help keep the blanket secure when the horse is moving around and rolling and playing in the field. And then you just tie that on the top. So that's with it crossed between his hind legs. There he is. It's nice and secure, and we're not going to lose our hind leg wraps. This is a great thing to do with a dog that you are going to do on the confidence course work with, because it does stay really secure. Can you stand up, Trist? And even with Tristan sitting here, you can see his little bow is sliding down his pants. So with him, even though he's a long dog, I may actually secure this up under the shoulder part too, just to hold it on him while he's moving. So that's a look at the basic full wrap and the rear wrap that we would use with T-Touch to help your dog get a better sense of his body awareness, get some relaxation in the pelvis and spine and hips. You can sit back down on your pillow. And it's a really great thing for dogs with arthritis or any kind of neurologic problem. And it's a wonderful thing to do with a reactive dog, or before you put your dog into some things on the confidence course, it's nice to put a wrap on them. It does improve their ability to feel a connection from the front to the back end as they're working through some of the things like the labyrinth and the ground poles and the ladder that we use for a confidence course. And I don't know with the ticks out there how I'm going to get a confidence course to show you. I probably will have to put it in the driveway because my yard seems to be a very dangerous place for people like me and Tristan. So at some point I will definitely show you some of the confidence course, and I have, you know, miniature versions and various sizes that I can show you as well. But it's a really good idea to have your dog in a wrap when you're doing the confidence course, or if you're working with a reactive dog, a fearful dog, a dog that has issues with other dogs, and as I said, a dog who's come out of surgery for an ACL, or even after spaying and neutering, you might not want to put the rear wraps on them, but just using a wrap to help them regain a sense of their body after surgery can be really useful. So I've showed you 4 different wraps that you can use on your dog's body that we use in T-Touch all the time. These are really basic ones that are super easy to do and to remember, and hopefully you've been able to see them on these rascally dogs enough to get a sense of how to do them yourself. And they can be just such a wonderful thing for your dog. I really encourage you to try to use them. I will also be showing you tomorrow some of the different head wraps we use on dogs, and these are really important for a lot of problems that dogs have that people would never think of using wraps, or even many of the things I do to help correct or solve some of those problems. So wraps help your dogs focus, they improve their proprioception, it helps your dog connect front to back, it can encourage engagement behind. And I would imagine that if you put a wrap on a dog that you're using in agility and it increases that engagement behind, that you might actually get a faster dog, because it's going to really give him information about how he's moving, the way that you would be training an athlete who's a runner in a way to learn more about their gait. This gives the dog a sense of their body when they're moving, and they may actually be faster and more agile after wearing a wrap. It really is helpful for dogs that have been rescued or something and they are fearful of things behind them. Feeling the wrap around their hind end gives them a sense of security. And for especially for the head wraps, it gives the dog a sense of relaxation. So there are many, many benefits of wraps, and we use them a lot in T-Touch work. And I would not dream of going to do any kind of a clinic or a talk without at least a little demonstration of wraps, and I have plenty for people to use when I do talks. So I encourage you to experiment with some, maybe dyeing your own ace wraps. You could make a business, as I've said, because lots of people want them in pretty colors, and it's not that, it's pretty time consuming to do the dyeing. So I know people will buy them if you dye them. And sewing on the little Velcro strips or gluing them at the end. The glue doesn't hold that well, I have to say, if you're thinking you're not going to sew them. And the wraps are just really a lot of fun to use in different colors. As I said, I have some yellow ones I use on Tristan if I'm taking him a walk somewhere and I don't want people stopping me and asking me if my dog is hurt, because they blend in really well with his coat. But the colors are fun, and it's also fun to see what colors your dog will choose to wear that day or for that particular activity. And it's not unusual to ask them in the morning and they'll pick a different color than what they pick when you ask them in the afternoon. So that's another fun part of wearing wraps with your dogs. So tomorrow we'll talk about head wraps a little bit, and Tristan and I have a lot of work to do today. I haven't been home enough to take care of my house and my laundry and figure out what we're going to do about the tick situation. I don't know. We're on top of it as much as we can be, but I may have to resort to the cedar spraying of the yard, which I have not had to do. And my yard's pretty big where I have it fenced. It's probably an acre, but the company does make a product that you can spray on your lawn. And I may, in fact, have to try that if the sunny days that we're having don't send the ticks running as it is. And we're mowing, but the grass is hardly even a half an inch long. So thanks for joining us today for another episode of Conversations with a Corgi. If you live in New England, be careful with the ticks. They're really bad, and God only knows what's going to happen with the fleas in the summer and the fall. So keep your dog safe and healthy and happy, and we will see you tomorrow for another episode of Conversations with a Corgi.